This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hello and welcome to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Thank you for joining us today. We're your hosts. My name is Marcie Davis, and my co-host is my trusty service dog, Whistle. And we're thrilled to be with you today to talk about our favorite subject, working dogs and working animals. And today we're going to be visiting with Lieutenant Paul Vance. And Lieutenant Vance is the Public Information Officer for the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection with the Connecticut State Police. And he's going to visit with us today about some of the innovative ways that they're using dogs to fight crime. So come right back after these quick messages as we welcome Lieutenant Vance to the show.
Sit, stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
It's DesignerPetSweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit DesignerPetSweaters.com to order your 4-legged fashions today. Large or small, we fit them all. DesignerPetSweaters.com.
Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Hello, Lieutenant Vance, and welcome to Working Like Dogs.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, we're so excited that you could be with us and talk about all the really cool ways that you guys are using dogs now to fight crime.
Well, you know, it's an exciting part of our agency, the Canine Division. Our Canine Division started back in 1934, so we feel like we're veterans in utilizing canines and animals for law enforcement purposes. And we're really excited about all the specialty dogs and the animals that we have working on our team right here in the state of Connecticut.
Wow, 1934. That is, we don't think of dogs as being trained and around in police work that long. That's awesome.
It really is, and I'm a former dog handler myself. I handled a patrol dog for a few years during my career, and it really is a very rewarding part of police work. There's nothing more rewarding than to have, unfortunately, a child lost or missing, and have an animal track that child, find that child, and bring that child safely home. It's just beyond words how rewarding it is.
I can only imagine. Well, tell us, so how did you guys start using the dogs back in 1934? Do you know how it got started?
We're researching it now because we're erecting a memorial here at State Police Headquarters in Connecticut in honor of past, present, and future dogs that have worked for the people of Connecticut. As you know, during 9/11, we sent teams of canines down to New York City, and they worked diligently in that tragedy. And unfortunately, we lost most of those dogs to illnesses after the fact. And that's just an example of how hard our dogs work. Not only to track down lost children and missing people and even capturing bad guys, if you will. But we're very, very proud of our canine facility and the specialty dogs that we have within our agency today.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, tell us about that facility and about the dogs. What all types of things do you train the dogs to do?
Well, we certainly have the what I call very good-looking bloodhounds that are handled here in Connecticut, and as you well know, and your listeners know, they have great noses and they're terrific for tracking. We have the German Shepherds that are patrol dogs that work out in the field every day. But we also have the typical narcotics dogs, which usually are Labradors. But we have arson dogs, which are trained to sniff out, and it's phenomenal to see them work, to sniff out accelerants and fires. We obviously have the bomb dogs that we're very proud of and that work very, very hard here in our state. Our newest addition is our electronic sniffing dog an animal has been imprinted to be able to sniff out electronics for our computer crimes unit. So we work very hard in making sure that we are innovative, and we're in the 21st century part of utilizing canines in law enforcement here in Connecticut.
Well, it sure sounds like it. I mean, that's wonderful, all the ways that you're using dogs. And certainly electronic sniffing dogs is a new one, which I'm always amazed, Lieutenant Vance. Every day it seems like I'm learning something new about how dogs can improve our lives. But tell us more about the electronic sniffing dog. What do they do?
Well, it's interesting because one of our chemists in our lab, Dr. Jack Hubble, was able to isolate, I'll say, a component, if you will, or an odor that was found in electronic media storage devices. And by that we're talking, micro SD cards, hard drives, USB drives, etc. But he was able to isolate that odor that exists in all of these devices. And as a result of that, we embarked, our canine training team about a year and a half ago, embarked on a venture to train 2 Labradors as electronic evidence detection dogs. Those 2 dogs were imprinted. They were trained as food reward dogs, were very successful in their training, graduated, and one of the dogs was assigned to a state police detective who works in the computer crimes investigative unit. That dog's name is Selma. And the second dog was assigned to the Rhode Island State Police, and they're using it for the same purpose in the state of Rhode Island. This animal, when our troopers go out, our detectives go out to serve search warrants and looking for electronic evidence, this dog, Selma, goes out with her handler, Detective Jupin, and we have utilized her successfully in locating evidence of electronic devices.
Wow, that is so great. That's so cool. Well, and tell us, so you guys train the dogs at your facility there, correct?
We do, and that's a very proud part of our existence, if you will, in the canine field, that we in fact have been in the business, as I said, for a very, very long time. But our training academy staff in our canine facility, over the years, we've actually trained people from all around the world. And by that I mean, years ago we had canine handlers and canines come in from Chile, Cyprus, Egypt, literally all over the world. I couldn't even name all the countries. We train animals certainly for other agencies around the country, but even in the state of Connecticut alone, not only do we train state police dogs, we train handlers and dogs for local police departments, for Department of Corrections, and we certainly are very proud of the product that we turn out. We're very proud that the breed we train, certainly the most common that we have, or out of the 70 dogs that we have on our staff in Connecticut, working with just state police troopers, we have the German Shepherds, which are obvious, but the Labradors are very, very popular in doing some of the work that I've alluded to before, and that is explosive dogs or arson detection dogs or even narcotic dogs, and we're very, very proud of the work that they do every single day here.
Do you breed the dogs there, or do you get them from other breeders?
We do not breed dogs. We, at times, will purchase them from breeders. We have a very good relationship with the Fidelco guide dogs here in Connecticut, and certainly some dogs that aren't really, I won't say washing out, but are not doing well in that program. Sometimes we'll look at them. And there are times that people will donate dogs to the State Police Department, and we'll take a look at them and see if they would fit the standards that we have, if you will, for our animals. What's important about our dogs is all of our dogs are working dogs. They all work for the department. They're all trained in their special areas, but they also live at home with their handler, with the trooper that handles them. So they go to and from work with them every day. They live in their home. Like myself, when I had my German Shepherd, this dog existed in my home with my children, with my wife, and was very, very family-friendly. But he knew that when the uniform went on and we got into the patrol car, that it was time to go to work. And he loved to work.
What's the lifespan, the working lifespan of most of your dogs?
That's a tough one. We've been very successful over the years and had some very good success in keeping a dog working, if you will. But we also don't abuse them, and by that I mean if a dog develops any kind of issue, any kind of physical issue, health issue, or anything like that, we're very quick, if it's not treatable or fixable, we're very quick to retire that dog so that dog can live its life with the family and with the handler that raised them and worked with them all those years. And then when that dog is retired, that dog becomes a family pet, if you will, and continues to exist as a family member.
Well, that was my next question that you answered, because I was wondering about the retirement process and what happens to the dogs if for some reason the handler can't take them and let them live out their lives with them. Is there an adoption program for any of them?
I've got to tell you, I've been here a very, very, very long time. I won't tell you how many years I've been here and how old I am, but I can tell you that I cannot remember an animal that was retired that didn't go with its handler. As you well know, the dog is more than an animal. The dog becomes your partner, your friend.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And truly, you actually fall in love with the dog because the dog is many times has saved lives of patrol troopers just by sticking his head out the window of the patrol car. The dog, as I alluded to before, is great when they locate lost and missing people, or when they track down a felon who's running from police, or all the different things that our animals do. And so, it becomes a member of the family, and by living with your family and existing with your family, it certainly is a very, very rewarding part of one's career to be a canine handler here in the state of Connecticut for the Connecticut State Police.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like it. I mean, and I'm so glad to hear you say that you haven't had any dogs that had to be adopted, because I can only imagine the bond. I know the bond between myself and Whistle and what he does for me every day, and I can't imagine the depth of that bond for your officers, because it is life and death so many times. So I can only imagine the trust and that relationship that is just so beautiful to think about, and it must be so amazing for the officers to have that opportunity. How do officers get to work with the canine program? Do they have to apply, or are they selected? How does that work?
Both of the above. I mean, if you want to be a canine handler, you have to apply, and you actually have to try out, as silly as that sounds. By that I mean we ensure that all our troopers are physically fit, but being a canine handler, sometimes you've got to be able to lift that dog over a fence, or do something like that. So we'll have a selection process at which our canine or officers or troopers are going to, before they're selected. And once they're selected, they go through a full-time academy training program. And when I say full-time, they go every single day. They work for several weeks, and they learn everything about the dog. They learn about the animal himself. They even learn first aid for the dog, in the event that, God forbid, the dog is injured. They learn how to utilize the dog, the best ways to utilize the dog, how to protect the scene for the animal to begin an active and complete search, how to conduct searches. And it's just, the list is almost endless, but I can tell you that when a canine handler graduates from the Connecticut State Police Canine Academy, that in fact he or she is thoroughly trained, thoroughly understands his or her role as a canine officer, and their canine partner in that team is going to function admirably when they hit the road and they go out into the field.
Well, that is so awesome. And we are visiting today with Lieutenant Paul Vance from the Connecticut State Police, and we're going to continue this conversation, but we're going to take just a quick break and hear some important messages from our sponsors. So come right back.
We'll be right back right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your Cat Tree Tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back back to Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. We're visiting today with Lieutenant Paul Vance from the Connecticut State Police, and he's been sharing with us all the incredible ways that the state police are training and utilizing dogs to fight crime. And you were just telling us, Lieutenant Vance, about all the different jobs that they do. You're mentioning the narcotics, the arson, the bomb dogs, and the incredible electronic sniffing dogs. So tell us more about these animals and how you guys are maximizing their abilities.
Well, I think we don't always, when we think about, let's say bomb-sniffing dogs, we don't think about the intricacies of that training. In other words, by that I mean, certainly the animal is trained to recognize and smell significant parts of a potential explosive device, but also it's important to note that those animals are also trained not to touch it. In other words, to signal their handler as to what they found, and that begins the process of making the area safe for people so that we can determine whether or not there is an explosive device or not. And that's pretty important. That's an intense part of the bomb dogs training, if you will. And I know they've been used in the military, and we've used them extensively right here in Connecticut for many, many years. The other one that is really intriguing, and if you can envision, say, a residential fire or a fire of a large commercial building, and the fire service and the fire marshals investigating the fire can't determine if an accelerant was used. And to think about it, that a Labrador Retriever can go into a burned-out building, sniff and find accelerants is almost mind-boggling when you can.
It is. It's the coolest thing ever.
It truly is. And the other thing about the arson sniffing dogs, that can be dangerous work for the handler and for the animal. And it's a handler's responsibility not only to control the dog and read the dog down the leash and work with the dog, but it's also his or her responsibility to make sure that dog is protected. Their paws are protected, their body's protected from any debris or any hazards that may be in a burned out building. But phenomenal to see them work and to see them trained, to see them imprinted and begin their training process, and then see them go into a building and alert when they find what they're trained to sniff for, because it's very, very helpful to law enforcement to continue their investigations.
Well, you've used the term imprinting a couple of times during our conversation today. Can you tell our listeners, what does that mean, Lieutenant Vance? What is imprinting?
Well, I got to talk in general terms, but in general terms, it means that the canine, the dog, is trained to recognize that smell. And when they recognize that smell, some of our dogs are food reward dogs, whereas they're fed by hand. And when they smell that particular odor, if you will, that they're going to eat. It's a reward system, if you will. And it takes some time to imprint the dog, in other words, to make the dog aware of that odor. Them finding that odor is a good thing. And them finding that odor is, in fact, going to afford them the ability to be fed by hand at that point in time. It's almost like giving your dog a treat for bringing the ball back when you're playing catch with them. And it's really cool to see the training process and to see the animal, walking in a circle or walking down a wall or walking across a room. And when the dog has been trained to smell that smell, if you will, and the animal stops and recognizes, oh yeah, here's the smell, here's what I'm trained to do. And they alert to their handler, and their handler gives them that food reward, and they find they're successful in that find. It's just so rewarding to see all that hard work that goes into imprinting the dog, teaching the dog to understand that odor, and teaching the handler to recognize and read the dog. It's phenomenal when that all comes together.
Yeah, it's in perfect concert. I can imagine. That's so awesome. And the reward for the dog and for the handler is just what a gift for both of them. Can you tell us of one or two dogs that come to mind, that experiences that you've had with the state police where dogs had such a tremendous impact?
Well, there are so many, it's almost difficult to do that. But, I mean, there have been instances where felons have fled from law enforcement at night, and the dog would catch the felon, because you can't really outrun a dog. And to be able to, take that person into custody and do it safely without hurting the animal, without hurting the trooper, and really without hurting the felon or the person who was being chased, that's good. But the most rewarding is, in my humble opinion, is when you take a bloodhound or you take a German Shepherd and you do a track for a missing person, a lost person. And I'm talking children, adults, and it happens to many people. And being able to successfully reunite family members. There is nothing more rewarding than to see the success of a canine leading the handler to that missing person and then reuniting that person with their family. That just is beyond explanation. It truly is. It's extremely, extremely rewarding.
Wow. Well, and you mentioned a dog that was recently placed with the Rhode Island State Police. I believe, is that dog's name Thoreau?
It is. Yes, it is.
Can you tell us more about Thoreau?
Well, that dog was one of the two. He's a yellow lab, and he was one of the two animals that were trained to step on electronic devices. He was imprinted, and it worked very, very well. And we believe we're the first in the country, and there's a great deal of interest across the country in this newish training program that we've introduced here in Connecticut. But we wanted to share the wealth, if you will. In other words, we kept one dog in our computer crimes unit, and we donated the second dog to the Rhode Island State Police for their computer crimes unit so that they could use the dog in the same way. You know, it's interesting when you think about 21st century policing. You know, one of the things that's very, very busy in our line of work now is electronics, is the computer science world, if you will. And there are many times when we will go out and fight certain types of crimes that involve the use of computers and hard drives and thumb drives and cell phones and the like. And some of those things, as everyone knows, are very small and can be secreted and hidden. And it's just phenomenal to see the Labrador go in and locate these things that have been hidden away. It's unbelievable how hard they work. And when they're successful, you know, certainly as I alluded to before, it helps law enforcement in furthering a criminal investigation. So the dog is doing their work. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, they should get maybe another little addition to their food as they're eating their dinner because they work very, very hard, these dogs do.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I was reading where these dogs are being used in child pornography crimes and some really, really heinous things that are happening to innocent victims. And it's just so amazing about how these dogs can be so helpful in tracking down these offenders.
Yeah, and that's very important. And thanks for bringing that up. I slipped my mind, but you know, when we talk about computer crimes, we talk about all the different crimes that exist all across the country, whether it be, you know, identity theft or larcenies or other types of crimes. But child pornography that hurts innocent children, there are many cases that, you know, where offenders will in fact hide that type of material. And that's where these dogs are so useful and so helpful as a detective is piecing together or building a case. And having the dog being able to locate evidence that's helpful in a criminal investigation of child pornography is many times will lead to an arrest, which is exactly what our job is, if you will, and what our animals are trained to do.
Yeah, that is just so wonderful. I heard you say that you, the Connecticut State Police, donated Thoreau to the Rhode Island Police. Did I hear that correctly?
You did. We're good guys here in Connecticut, and our Canine Training Academy wanted to, in fact, share the wealth, if you will. Rhode Island has a very active and very good computer crimes unit, as we do in Connecticut. I'm going to brag a little bit, and quite frankly, it was the start of a new program, and we wanted to, first we used the dogs here in Connecticut in a training mode, if you will, but then we officially deployed them to work with our computer crimes unit, and we gave one to Rhode Island State Police to use in their computer crimes unit. They're very happy with it. The dog is working very, very well. But I must say, I think our Connecticut dog is prettier than the Rhode Island dog.
And that's Selma? Is she the...
Yes, that's correct.
And what kind of dog is Selma?
They're both labs. And
okay.
They're both... You know,
is she a yellow lab?
No, Selma's a yellow lab, and I think... Yeah, they both are. They're both yellow labs.
Okay, yep. Okay.
I was just trying to think if... We've got, you know, it's interesting because we do have such a great population of canines here within our canine division, and that's why I had to think for a minute as to what color, because we do have different color labs, and at one point in time we had some golden retrievers that work for us. I've talked about the German Shepherds. I'm trying to think of,
and the bloodhounds. You mentioned the bloodhounds. Yes,
handsome dogs, yes.
Yes, they're all gorgeous.
Yeah,
they're all, so are you using Goldens now, or did you stop using Goldens?
We don't have any golden retrievers in the canine program now. I believe we've pretty much gone to Labradors, and you know that's up to our training academy staff to determine what the best animal is for the work that we need to fulfill. And what we'll do is we'll begin to plan training classes or training academy classes for the future. For example, when we finish a patrol dog class, we'll start planning for the next patrol dog class, and people will start applying, and we'll start the selection process. And we'll put the class together of 10, 12, 15 people, depending on who needs what. And that includes troopers from Connecticut, troopers from other surrounding New England states, local law enforcement officers in Connecticut that want to put a canine on patrol, and Department of Corrections and Department of Environmental Protection and people such as that. And we'll gladly train these men and women to handle the dogs because, honestly, it's all an additional blanket of protection to have additional canines out there because they are so useful and so helpful, not only to law enforcement, but to the people that they work for, the customers of our respective states.
Absolutely. Well, you said that you had 70 dogs in employment right now, 70 working dogs. How many do you train annually?
It all depends on the need. We really have to look at, like everything else, everything is budgetary, but we have to look and see what our needs are in the field. We want to ensure that, for example, in the state of Connecticut, that we have dogs working 24 hours a day, and yes, our dogs do work nights, and it's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365 days a year. So we want to ensure that we have enough dogs on duty at all times so that they can respond not only to our calls, but we also respond to local law enforcement that don't have animals, that don't have canine programs within their jurisdiction. We'll respond and help them and provide the canine service to them if it's actually requested by anybody.
Wow. Well, we just can't thank you enough, Lieutenant Vance, for being with us today and sharing your wonderful program and the incredible work that you and so many officers and canine officers are doing every day. And we thank you for that. And we just commend all of your contributions. It's really incredible. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure being with you, and our hat is off, and our pride is shared with all the canine handlers all across the country that serve the people that in our respective jurisdictions. They are just a great asset to law enforcement.
And let me ask you one quick question before we go, and that is, if our listeners want to get in touch with you for more information or to donate, to contribute a dog, or if there's any questions that they have, how could they do that, Lieutenant Vance?
They can simply go to our website, and you'll see on the website, the email is right there. Any search engine will take you to the Connecticut State Police website, and send us an email. I mean, we're always happy to respond. We're always happy to provide information on the canine training program. And one thing I didn't mention, but when the time is right and when some of our dogs are going into harm's way, we even put bulletproof vests on them because we want to protect them. They're part of our law enforcement team.
Wonderful. Yes, they deserve those vests. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, our listeners, for being with us. We're so glad that you could join us today. And we love hearing from you. So please keep those emails coming. And you can email us at Marcie, MARCIE, at PetLifeRadio.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And you can access our blog at WorkingLikeDogs.com. So thanks so much, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Take good care.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.